right, welcome on to another episode of Inside Hollywood with Vinny. And our guest today, again, another wonderful indie filmmaker that I have to thank my dear friends over at Indie Rights to having made the introduction. He is not too far south from me in good old Northern Virginia / Washington, D.C., just close enough, but not far enough. And he's a great guy. He's got a great story to tell, and he's done some feature films. And he's here to tell us how he did it. And it's not easy, but he makes it sound easy. So let's welcome to the show, Chris Maes. How are you, Chris?
I'm great. How you doing, Vinny?
Doing great. I'm glad to have you. Again, near and dear. I love my indie filmmakers. One myself, so we're always looking to trade notes and network and find out how you get things done. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. What got you started in the industry? What attracted you to it, I should say?
Yeah, I kind of was performing as a young kid. I did ventriloquism and puppet shows and acting and all kinds of stuff. And I was a really kind of an introverted kid, so it was a great outlet to have. And it really wasn't until maybe teenage years that I started seeing movies, really like comedies, like Young Frankenstein and Annie Hall and Monty Python and stuff like that. And it was like, wow, you can do something really big on a screen and entertain people. You know, take what would just be in a theater. And I got really interested kind of through horror originally, just in filmmaking. Like, how do you use a camera? What is a shot? What are actors? How do you work, productively to create a character? It isn't just, here are lines I wrote down for you, Vinny. Go say these. When I say action, you say them. There's something about creating like the life of the story that I got really interested in. So it's really been kind of an outgrowth of that. I went to UCLA Film School, was fortunate enough to get in there and met some great people, friends that I'm still close to today. And continue. There's no kind of end to learning about this medium called film.
I love it. I mean, I think everybody kind of starts out at some point in their lives where, maybe it's the joy of not just filmmaking, but also the joy of storytelling, of being creative, and you have all this imagination in your mind. And hopefully it continues into your adult years.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a whole thing a whole kind of belief I have, which is you have to stay tight, connected to your creativity, however you do it. If you divorce yourself from that, and we've all met people like you run into somebody from high school and it's 20 years later and you kind of don't see, where's that person I used to know? You're not there anymore. You left somewhere, and this other adult person who is a lawyer or a doctor or whatever has kind of taken over, and that always distresses me. So I feel like we kind of have an obligation to do something with it. Not everyone's going to be able to make a living at it, but whether you draw or paint or sing or play an instrument, I think that's really important, just to it's just part of who people are, I think.
Yeah, the boring life is not worth living, for sure.
Yeah.
So what inspires you and what helped you manage to do your first film? What brought you there? What were some of your obstacles? How did you overcome them?
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, because I had really kind of stopped filmmaking when I lived in LA, and I was working first as a screenwriter, and then I worked in network TV post-production. And then I moved with my family to the East Coast, and I stopped anything. Nobody out here. I did work for a couple documentary companies, but nobody by and large did anything related to narrative filmmaking or even TV shows that were not narrative. And so I kind of thought, okay, well, I don't have anything more to say. I'm being a dad. I have 2 kids. It was, very busy, very fulfilling. And it was really not till kind of like COVID during that lockdown when I worked on another feature film, an indie film that shot out here, and all of those like COVID protocols that Screen Actors Guild made you do, and all of this. And I was hearing all this noise of, we can't make movies because it's too dangerous. And I thought, that's kind of bullshit. There's a way to do it. I think I know a way to do it, which is, there must be some way to tell a story, small story, contain a couple characters, 1 or 2, 3 primary settings. And that was kind of the challenge that got me started with my first feature film, Hemisphere. And I had this crazy idea that I could make a sci-fi movie and shoot it in my basement and make you believe you're in orbit around, the planet Mercury. So a lot of it comes from ignorance, to be honest. I will allow myself to get really excited about an idea and try not to get too negative too early. I'll keep notebooks and write, what if this, what if that, how will you handle these things? And I'll try to throw out what could be obstacles, but I really don't want to get too down too early, because there are 100 reasons not to make a movie. It is a little bit of an insane endeavor once you get rolling with it. But a lot of it for me, I think the initial challenge was, one, could I do it? I had no idea. I'm like, I've done narrative, I've written a feature scripts and I've done little short things before, but I had no idea if I could sustain 90 minutes of drama. So I think that was part of it. And the other was just to see what it would be like to combine, working with actors with the technical aspects. And anyway, that's what got me started. And I can't emphasize enough, it's okay to be ignorant. You don't have to have everything worked out perfectly. You can start, but put good people on your team, a good camera person, sound person, cast it well. If you do that, those people take the load off of you. And hopefully by the time you're shooting, you're not doing a lot with that stuff. You're not technically doing things. You can guide the actors, but a lot of it is you're looking at, this is what we need to get done today, and let's make sure we do that and everybody's safe and that kind of thing.
Did a few films myself, and I was like, I just wanted to get it out of my system, right? I just wanted to just try my first short film, Washington Avenue, which is, just won awards. I'm so excited about it. But again, as you said, got to have a great team. And sometimes you don't know the majority of people that are coming on board. Some people are just starting out without many resources, without many friends. I was lucky enough to have some really great friends that jumped in and helped. But of course, you always need strangers. You need people. Nobody does it alone. I mean, no matter how many people stand on that stage and accept Oscars, there's hundreds, maybe thousands of people that contribute.
Yeah. It's funny too. I was telling a younger person that people in the movie industry, strangers aren't strangers for long. You show up on a set and you might be introduced to somebody, and 45 minutes later, you're working really intensely with them on something. And so it breaks down a lot of those normal sort of social barriers, meeting strangers, when you're working on a creative project like a movie. And I love it. I love, you get really close. I always get very sad when the movie's wrapped and all the actors, the actors go away. I'm alone on the set, and it's like I can hear, it's like a party when it's over and all the guests go home. You can hear all the fun that you had that day, but now it's super quiet. And a good part is you can then reflect on it. And if you want to make adjustments, you can do that. But it's a great thing to be able to work creatively together with people. I can't think of anything else that I do that's quite as fun as that.
So your first film, did you write it yourself, or did you have the concept, you had somebody write it? And then from there, as a follow-up, how did you seek finance?
Yeah, so the first film I wrote myself. I had written, I knew I wanted to do something with sci-fi. And when I had a manager out in LA, I wrote a couple different sci-fi movies. And they made the rounds, and nothing ever happened with them. And I always had it in my head, there's got to be some way to tell a contained story with two characters stuck 93 million miles from Earth grappling with an issue. And so I wrote it very quickly. When I sort of thought about the reality of trying to do it myself, it really forced me to make a minimum number of sets, two main characters. There's an ex-husband who's on Earth that we see through video, and there's an AI robot computer that's a third character. But primarily it was just these two human beings. So logistically, I tried to keep it simple that way. And I have a writer friend, James Cappy, out in Los Angeles that I knew from college. And I said, will you look at this and give me some input? I want to try to do the whole thing myself. And he helped me really simplify it even further. I had some other characters and get rid of them. You don't need them. He came up with some interesting sort of plot twists that we put into it later in the story. And he was also really helpful for me during post and editing to give me input that way. But I think it was basically modeled after my wife and daughter. And after spending all this time with them growing up, teenage years, post-high school, they always butted heads. They're such different personalities, the two of them. And I thought, I want to make a movie with them. They're not going to know it. But this character is going to be like my wife, and this character is definitely going to be like my daughter. And I thought, well, what happens if those are the two characters in this situation out on a space station? And I still am really intrigued with, when we look at the future, I think the very normal conflicts we have today will follow us. I think arguments families have with each other will be the same things that happen 100 years from now in space or in some other realm that we may not even know about. So those are things that got me started. And then I think as far as the financing, with that first one, I did some of the payments with deferrals and brought it into a small enough budget that I was able to do it myself. And I thought, look, if you really are careful with how many days you shoot, how big your crew is, you can do this. And I think I had a budget. I think originally the budget was like 25 or 30,000, and I ended up doing it for considerably less than that. But the first money that we made, I ended up having to pay deferrals to the actors and DP and so forth. As far as a distributor, when you make a movie, if you start posting about it on IMDb, etc., people will reach out. You'll get people contacting you, sales agents, distributors, and they'll show you different contracts that they might offer you. And it took me really hooking up with Indie Rights, where I found what I thought was a really fair partner. They were the only ones that said, we'll do this for 3 years. We won't charge you any marketing fees. It's a flat percentage fee of, I think, 20% of everything that the movie makes. And they were very upfront, and they're very easy to contact. I still, when I need to, I can get one of them on the phone, usually within a week. We'll be having a conversation, and I can ask whatever my questions are. I will say there are a lot of kind of, what I would call sort of sharks out there. Are a lot of people looking to capitalize. Even if you fund the movie yourself 100%, there are distributors who have big names that'll say, look, we'll do it. We want 40%, and we want to take 10 grand for marketing, and we want to cut the trailer and charge you this. And if you're not careful, you can give away the farm. You have to first see how is your movie going to perform, because there's no way of knowing until it's out there whether an audience will show up.
Yeah, and I've heard plenty of horror stories from different filmmakers that I'm friends with that have pretty much said the same thing. They are sharks. You got to watch, because you'll spend all this time, energy, money, and you turn around and you've almost like kind of been disinherited from your own project.
Yeah, no, it's easy to spend little bits at a time. I've done that even with little marketing things I've done with companies. Once I have a movie that I need to market, it's easy to, you can blow $1,000, $2,000 just a little bit here and there. And then you look at, wow, okay, well, what's the next movie I want to do? I wish I'd taken some of the marketing money and put it, got started on the next one. So you have to be careful of it. But again, it's really helpful to have, family and friends will give, I find, really valuable input on those kind of questions if you have them about your money or your budget, or what is risk, I think, is the main thing you're trying to navigate. How much risk can I take making the movie? And once I've made it, the good thing is when you finish it, you own it. It's 100% yours. So for all eternity, until you sell it, if you sell it to someone, you're just licensing it to a distributor. And then they control it for a period of time, but ultimately you still own it. So that's, I think, very empowering. And as you say, you got to watch you don't get disinherited from your own project.
Yeah, and it's with the way things are, I think that there's also the good news out there. We just mentioned Indie Rights, great company. I'm a big fan of theirs.
Yeah.
I've mentioned them plenty of times, and I know they're a fan of the show, which thank you very much. But I think they're an excellent business, and I think that is where I try to steer a lot of my friends towards. So, again, we have to be around like-minded sort of creatives, people that are just like, you have to make money. We have to listen. We all have to make a profit. We have to survive.
No, we have to. Ideally, it's to cover the costs of making it, which can justify you doing it just as a learning experience. But if you can, above that, make some money, and I think that's almost better than, I think the first movie, like a lot of filmmakers, I went in thinking, I want to make $100,000. It's very rare. It's not that you can't, but it's like going up to bat. If you bat 25, what is it? You're 250 rather. You're doing all right, and that means 3/4 of the time you're failing, and 1/4 of the time you're getting on base. So it's kind of the same with making movies. I don't think it's fair to the movie to expect it to, part the Red Seas for you. You make them and you do the best you can and try to learn from them and enjoy them and the experience of making them. And then you hope that one breaks loose. If you make 3 or 4 or 5 of them, hopefully one of those or 2 of those will do something. And, that's encouraging, because I find that's useful feedback, just to know what do audiences want. That could be different than what I think they want.
That's another important point, too, because it's not always what you want. It's about what the market, because, of course, there's a business end to this,
Yeah.
So it's, again, what's in demand, what does the market want, right? But, I mean, there is something to be said. You got to, the old cliche of write what you know and do what you like, and
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that makes it authentic, you know.
Absolutely. I think that write what you know. I used to think when I was younger, you have to have experience being whatever, an arc welder or whatever it is. And now I think, no, write what you know emotionally. Like I don't know anything about police work. And if I wrote, a cop story, it'd be very hard for me, but I would have to find emotionally where's that character at. And if I can latch onto that and figure that out, then it's very easy to write the story. And I think that's the case with telling stories or making movies is you have to try to find something in the character. I get excited at a certain point. A character will teach me. I feel like I'm not as brave as this character, and I'm throwing these obstacles at them to solve. And as they solve them, I'm learning. I could be more brave in my life, or I could have more of these qualities and develop them more. So I think write what you know is a really great thing to kind of live by, and to hopefully take what you know. If you take experiences from your own life, they're yours. Nobody else can write those. If you write about something that really happened to you, chances are you're going to write a better story. The dialogue will be more authentic. And other people look at that and go, wow, that's really cool. And if they tried to write it, would be, flat. And it's good, for us to remember to try to tap into some aspects of our own life.
Agreed. And people that do that, usually I noticed in my experience and just observing others, people that have gone through the most hell in their lives usually do really well in this business, whether you're a filmmaker, an actor, a screenwriter. People that have lived really rough lives tend to make the best personalities in this business because they're drawn from real life and
Yeah.
they've learned from experience and not from, just perception or just watching a show.
Yeah, no, there's something, it's funny. I feel like, yeah, real life will burn you. Some of the illusions we love to believe in stories and in movies. In real life, like, I have sort of a thing against like alcoholism, the way it's depicted in movies and particularly Hollywood movies. They're still on the, hey, this is really funny. Look at these crazy bachelorettes having a crazy weekend or whatever. And unfortunately, in real life, people who are drinkers, hard drinkers, it's very sad. It's sad for them and family members around them. And so I always feel like, yeah, real life will burn you. Movies will entertain you and you can get lessons from it. But you got to be, mindful that the real world, when you step outside that theater, it can slap you in the face really hard if you're not paying attention.
Right. Don't try this at home.
Yeah.
All right. So you caught the bug, as we all do in this business. You did your first one. You did, yeah. And you sounds like you did relatively well as far as just, getting it done, making some mistakes, but learning from them. So now bring us up to what you just, and I'm going to let you introduce the movie and tell us about your recent picture that you're excited about.
Yeah, so the new movie is Air Shift, and it's available as of this week. It's now on Amazon. It's been on Amazon Prime, but it's now on YouTube. Movies for free, Indie Rights Movies for free, and then I think it launches on Tubi Thursday of this week. So it'll be available for free with ads. It is about a female disc jockey who has to confront and overcome a serial killer and a zombie uprising in one night. It's her last shift on the air, so that's it in a nutshell. It's essentially kind of a combination, a little bit of a mashup of horror and true crime. But it was an older idea that I had that I've been kicking around for a while, and I really wanted to do it. And I am a child of the 1970s and FM radio and what that all meant. And I thought I want to do some kind of story and find a character who still kind of views it through those sort of golden colored glasses and has to sort of face the world isn't the way she wants it to be, and life is kind of cruel, and she has to make some hard choices by the end of the night of what she's going to do with herself and her career if she's going to survive this thing.
I love it. And I look forward to watching it. And now we can obviously, we're going to have links for those of you watching, especially on YouTube. We're going to have links in the description box. You can find all this. And of course, we're going to support Chris and everything he does. And you are obviously on Instagram, YouTube. We can find you just about everywhere.
Yeah, we have for Air Shift, we have a Facebook page specifically for that, and then the rest of the things I do are on my studio, which is Trujillo Creek Pictures. So we have a YouTube channel, Instagram, and I think we have a Twitter page as well on that. So, but yeah, Air Shift we're excited about it. It was very different from the first one, which was really like a serious sci-fi thriller, and to do something that tried to put some humor in it. The idea of a serial killer going to abduct and take control of this woman who he has a fixation on at a radio station, and then realizing there are zombies outside, to me seemed funny when I was writing it. I hope that comes across in the movie, the sort of disconnect of, wait a second, this doesn't compute.
It sounds fantastic. I'm a fan of sci-fi. I'm all about that. It sounds like you kind of combine the zombie thing. So I love it. It sounds like it's really interesting and exciting. And yeah, I want to bring some of that stuff back. I had some projects, and I've been considering sci-fi. I think maybe you've kind of convinced me I need to tinker around with some stories.
Yeah, somebody told me both those two genres, sci-fi and horror. They said sci-fi, you can tell a story and get into a really complex idea. You can have philosophical underpinnings, moral underpinnings. You don't have to resolve it in sci-fi. You just bring it up, and you think of some of your greatest, beloved sci-fi movies do that, where you're like, it stays with you a long time, and you keep rethinking about, what does this really mean? And then with horror, conversely, they say it's all the stuff we bury in society under the surface. We bury deep. We're not going to deal with these things because these are terrible thoughts. And horror is all about, let's bring it up and let them loose and see what happens.
Right, all the taboo, scary, hidden things that are lurking in our subconscious.
All the terrible things human beings are capable of, or spirits, or culture, sort of folklore, all of that.
I love it. Well, listen, Chris, you've been a great guest. I look forward to watching your work and supporting you and supporting our great friends over at Indie Rights. And all of you out there, please make sure, and I say this every episode, but I really need you guys to make sure that we are supporting Chris. Tap on the links, watch his projects, follow him on all his social media, subscribe to his YouTube channel, and send some comments over. Ask him some questions. If you're, maybe some new filmmakers out there, an actor, somebody has some questions, please do so. Right, Chris?
Absolutely. Actors are the best, for me, part of directing when you're shooting. And anything I could do to answer any questions or help people out, for sure.
And most importantly, if you're an investor, make sure you call Chris.
Yeah. I will bring in, for a very reasonable budget, I can make some good...
For just pennies a day, you could support struggling filmmakers such as Chris Maes.
Yeah.
But Indie's where it's at, baby. And I'm a big fan, as I continue to say ad nauseum, because I think we are the future. I think independents are bringing a fresh... It's not even fresh. It's just we're bringing it back to what it should have been all along.
I think so. I think we're fortunate to have all this technology now that doesn't cost an arm and a leg for digital cameras and edit systems that are on desktops. So it has democratized it in a great way, and we're getting really original stories coming out.
It's never been a better time, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a new person, reach out to me, reach out to Chris, and get the advice. Learn, absorb. There's a ton of resources now, more than I think I would ever have imagined out there, and it's just about application. Put yourself out there. But for now, our guest has been the amazing Chris Maes. It's been a real honor and pleasure to be with you, my friend. Keep us up to date what's going on. And I wish you a lot of luck with your projects. Any last words for the crowd out there?
Be a total filmmaker. Try to learn as much as you can about all the different aspects of it, and that'll make you stronger.
That's right. It's just about taking that first step, right? Just do it.
Yes, exactly.
All right, guys. Thanks again. Please subscribe to me. Subscribe to Chris. Again, thank you, Indie Rights, and we will catch you next time.